So right now I'm working on adding these gussets in my Z's here. You can kind of see how I'm going to do it like this. These just give it a little bit of extra structural stability, and it also helps it flow a little bit better so it doesn't kind of look like just a square, you know. This gives it a little shape and character. What I'm doing right now is, if you look at this one, you can see that I beveled the edge, right? So it's come to a sharp point. Just because I think it looks cool. You can see I kind of beveled these right here and beveled this up here. I just think it looks like it's just a little detail. It makes it look nicer. So what I'm doing here is all I'm doing is taking, you can see I got just a dial caliper and I got it set at 3/100 of an inch to describe it. And then I'm gonna make sure, I'm just taking a grinder, right? And I'm gonna make sure the whole way when I'm grinding this that I have the grinder set at the same angle. And then I'm just watching until I hit this little scribe line. You might be able to see the scribe line there. Going until the edge of that just touches that or gets close to that. Then flip it over and do the other side. And this is just a nice little subtle detail. Give you more character. Also, if you ever hit anything, you'll just cut it right the fuck up. You can see this is pretty sharp. I just think it's cool. So little details that make cool rat rods cool. Anybody can throw together a rat rod, but not anybody can have the attention to detail when actually doing rat rods. So now that I got these edges beveled on this plate here, you can see that I just took some 1-inch tubing, and then I took a 1/4-inch spacer, and I put these. I welded the 1-inch tube onto this frame here, so that gives me a 1 1/4-inch spacing. And this is a 3-inch plate, or 2 7/8 inch wide section here. So that 1 1/4 with the 1/4-inch plate is actually gonna put this plate right in the center of my frame rail here. So once I got these tacked on here, right, then I just took clamps and clamped down my sections. Okay, makes sense. Right, clamped it. And then that holds the plate in place to where I need it, and then I tacked on the plate on the top and the bottom. You can see there, and you can see I got a little bit of gap there for penetration also. It's not a bad thing, especially since it's the underside, no one's ever gonna see it. And then once I get the body on, I'll have to do bracing in here on the inside. I have to get the body on first though, because I don't know exactly how everything's gonna line up inside. Then I'll do the same back here. I gotta put a little plate in here, and then a plate this way once the body's on. Just giving it some extra support. I probably don't need it, but that's alright. I got a big 1/4-inch thick sheet over here to use up, so. So that's another day. I've been down here almost 6 in the morning now. I think I started around 6 p.m., so 12 hours, another 12 hours. I'd guess probably somewhere around 220 hours, 230 maybe. I kind of lost track, but making progress, that's all that matters.
To the next plateau.
Got a little tip here for you guys. So I'm cutting the edge of this 1/4-inch off because I got this part from a buddy and he wanted the rest of this stuff back. So what I'm doing here is he wants a straight cut so that he can put it on his back on his laser and go based off dimensions off this. So what I'm doing basically is I'm using this little pipe here as a rest for my angle cut off, right? And then all I'll do is ride that all the way down, and that'll give me a perfectly straight cut as long as you keep the angle proper. Obviously if you keep it like that, it's going to be a little bit short, a little bit long like that, so you want to keep it flat, right? So what I did here, just measured from this corner up to the edge of the bar, and that's about 16 1/4. Okay, then just do the same thing on this side, and then you just move this bar until it's right. So right about there, then clamp it, and there you go. Easy as that. It's a good little trick. Get perfectly straight cuts off a sheet of steel like this. Now that I got the front bag cross member on this frame done up there, I'm actually going to start working on the back frame cross member here for the bags. And what I'm going to do here is I bought this 3x2 3/16 sidewall tubing, and because the frame has a slight pitch to it back, you can see that, right? I actually flipped one this way and have one the other way to kind of make up for this difference. I probably should have had or got 2 by 3.5. That might have worked out better because, as you can see, this isn't exactly where I need it to be quite yet, but it will be. And because I'm gonna put a little put a gooseneck ball in here, this has to be level or very close to level, so I'm gonna end up spacing this up a little bit. And then underneath here, you can kind of see that. See, this is how this step here, right? But I'll actually put the plate right here out this way and have like a spacer box in between here, or a spacer tube between here to make this flat also. So what I'm doing here is basically the same process as the front one. I have this 2.5-inch tube spacing these apart, the 2.5 inches that I need for my bag bolts and all that. So I got that tacked in there, and then I got these rough cut to their length that they need to be. And then I put a pair of vice grips on each side, measured basically from a spot that I know is common on both sides, so I use this rivet, and then measured up, put the vice grip where it needs to be. Then do the same thing on this side, and gravity holds this in place here, so I can kind of mock everything up. And then what I'm gonna do, you can see I kind of cut these these plates out, so you can see in the inside one there, basically just to kind of box it to the frame almost. So I'll weld that vertical, and then I'll weld up in here. And I got this side here, same basic deal. If you can kind of picture this over the end like an end cap. Okay, and then I'll use another plate underneath to just kind of make a box, complete box, and around the underside also. And then I'll drill 2 holes in each side for 1/2-inch bolts, and I'll have 4 bolts holding this in. I do everything overkill, especially because this is actually going to have a gooseneck car hauler trailer coming through the roof, if you can kind of imagine. It's gonna be awesome. And then what I'm doing here is I got this plate cut out here. This is just a 1/4-inch plate, okay, and that's actually gonna go kind of where this tube is, so I'll cut this tube out, and then I'm gonna take something like this, cut it to my 2.5-inch width, put it in there, weld it in, and then I'll weld that plate over the top of that, right? And then I'll have another plate that's welded onto that. I think that'll do. I got the steel, and I don't really want this thing ripping off and coming to hit me in the back of the head, so yeah. So I'm just gonna work on cutting this today, cutting out all this stuff, getting a dry fit, and then start welding it and bolting it and all that jazz. So if you look here, now I'm drilling the plate for my ball mount for my hitch, right? My hitch ball. And what I did was I drew a little diagonal across from here to that side, and then a diagonal from here to that side, right? And then where those intersected is the center, and that's where you want to drill your little hole. You see I started a hole there in the center, okay? And then I'm using a hole saw. This is a 1 1/8 inch hole saw. A standard ball seems to be about 1 inch, so this is giving me a little bit of clearance. I'm not positive about that, so don't quote me, but that's what I'm doing mine for. So just take the hole saw, take it slow, use some lube, WD-40, whatever you got kind of sitting around. Now you can see that I had this plate here, and I had the plug welds on this plate here that I welded on, just so it gives it a cleaner finish around here. This is more just for here, just here to give it some extra strength. It doesn't have to be welded on there completely solid because this will be pinched in between the ball and the nut, but this obviously isn't going to go anywhere with 4 1/2-inch plug welds in it. Okay, and then what I did on the back side, I just had a little piece of 3/16 kind of piece of scrap that was laying around, and I cut it to 2.5 inch width, right? Because that's how far apart I want these. So I cut it to the width, and then I just used the length that I had. I didn't cut off any of this just because it doesn't matter, no one ever sees it. So I have this all tacked on here, and what I did here is I took, see this 2.5 tube here, and I have another piece of 2.5 inch tube right there. I took it and put this all on the floor and clamped these together with the tubing in between here on each end. That makes sure it's all square. And then I measured to make sure that this was where it needed to be. And then I tack these in here, and then I flip it over, make sure it all works. Make sure it all fits the way it needs to. So you can see that's pretty close. Now, since I got all that tacked in, I can take and I can weld this plate on here, on this side over here, and then also on these sides here. And then finish welding the back side. This piece in here, welding this piece to this piece, and welding this piece to the tube. So why I did this one on the inside here? Well, if you look, this one here, this piece here, is between these two. So this can't go forward and backwards any. Even if your welds break, this isn't going to go forwards and backwards any because it's wedged in between these two pieces here, right? But the other pieces are on the other side of that tube, so they can slide if a weld breaks. But this is like extra insurance here, since these are all going to be welded together. This gives me directional stability this way also. And it was kind of just nice to have an extra 3/16, so now this is 5/8 of an inch thick. This hole here for the ball, which is plenty thick. And that's that. It's a nice bead right there. Good and hot. Whew. Now you can see that I got this rear engine crossmember off the car, and I'm gonna continue welding all these spots up in here. It's a lot easier when it's off the car than trying to go overhead welding and all that. Got this thing completely welded up and ready to go back on the car. And I find this pretty funny. Some of you might think it's appropriate, but what does that look like? Man, that's slag. So, it's the 9th of January. Technically, I guess it's 2:30 in the morning, the 9th of January. Started this build on September 26th. I've been working on it here and there, so what is that? Got about 3.5 months of elapsed time, but that's probably only, say I work half those days, so that's somewhere around probably 50 days, I would guess. I got the frame almost complete, almost ready to put the engine on. Actually, I am ready to put the engine on, but I'm waiting on a cherry picker. Got a whole bunch of goodies done. I'd say somewhere around probably 300 hours total, maybe even a little bit more, 350. I'll probably have somewhere around 350 or 400 just in the frame by the time everything's done, by the time all the alignment's done on the front and rear suspension, etc. Got probably 30 hours of wiring, 20 hours of fitting stuff up, making sure everything's perfect. And I also got to put in the transmission crossmember. I want to thank you guys for watching all these videos and commenting. I really like all the comments and all the ideas that I'm getting from you guys. Feel free to contact me, keep giving me suggestions. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day, guys.